Welcome, my spookies. I asked my fans if I should do a spoiler or non-spoiler video on Together, and from the bottom of my heart,
Like to thank all 17 of you for coming out.
Thanks to them, we are doing a spoiler video. Let's roll it with the spooky crisp. The movie opens with a search party in the woods. Some locals are calling out two names looking for a missing couple. Two dogs notice a big hole and jump in, because they aren't pussies. They feel the need to quench their thirst and drink out of a small pond in the little cave. Their owner calls them back and the search ends and everyone goes home. The owner notices the dogs acting strange. They can't stop staring at each other. The owner gets woken in the middle of the night because the dogs are wailing. He goes to check them out only to yell that we have already seen this shit in The Thing. Just being funny. This is honestly a solid intro. We barely see the monster shape of the dogs, and then we jump to our main couple, Tim and Millie. No time jump, no nothing. Mwah. A solid hook, and then we meet our main characters. Tim, played by Dave Franco.
You know what happens to a handsome guy like me in jail? It rhymes with grape. It rhymes with grape.
And Millie, played by his wife in real life, Alison Brie.
And I will die protecting his vision.
Are you by any chance familiar with Stockholm Syndrome?
Is it something that the Dean created? Because if not, I don't care.
Now, neither of them are first-timers in the horror genre, but it seems like lots of more famous actors lately are going the horror route, and I couldn't be happier about it. Hell, if more top-tier actors keep starring in these little horror projects, maybe the Academy will start to take horror movies seriously.
Yeah, and if a frog had wings, it wouldn't bump his ass when he hopped.
We are at a party, and Millie has a little surprise for good old Tim. They are preparing for a big move into a small town for a more simple life, but it's mostly because Millie got a new job offer teaching at an elementary school. So they are having a farewell party with their friends and Tim gives a big speech. Little does he know, Millie is on one knee behind him.
This is gonna be good.
Everyone is telling Tim to turn around and he sees Millie make a box gesture with her hands and proposes to him without a ring, and he doesn't really say yes. Bitch, you know ring pops are cheap, right? Like, you could have had some kind of ring to offer him. They're in bed that night and he is apologizing for his reaction, and then she gives him an ultimatum: either they split or they make this move together. He says he is in this for reals, and then she tries to fuck him to make it all better, and he can't get it up.
Ha! Gay!
In the night, Millie is ripping into Tim, saying every terrible thing under the sun, and we see someone across his bed. And under the sheets. Not in a sexy way. In a, this movie is actually scary way.
Yes! Yes! Oh, yeah!
He wakes up from his nightmare and they are moving to a new place. Once they get there, he notices the smell of death in their house, but can't figure out where it's coming from. He then looks up to the ceiling light and unscrews it and pulls out a rat king? If you don't know what that is, let me explain.
In the cramped quarters of a rat colony, the tails of several juvenile rats occasionally become inexorably intertwined, forming the disturbing creature you see here.
The next day, Millie starts school and meets some literal bitches, but also a different kind of bitch.
Yes, Queen.
Her new friend introduces himself and shows her around a bit, and wouldn't you know it, they are neighbors, and they are pretty far away from town.
What a coincidence.
That night, Tim is practicing for an upcoming gig that he is doing with her brother's band. She asks him to come to bed, but he has to deny her some dick yet again.
Ha! Gay!
The next day, Tim and Millie go hiking, you know, bond a little, basically anything to get out of fucking each other.
Ha! Gay!
We see some bells hung in the woods. Spooky wooky. It starts to rain and they are helplessly lost. They continue to wander and fall into a very large hole. The one from the intro.
Uh-oh, Spaghetti-O.
But it's not all bad. You see, here is where the couple really grows. But first, they are thirsty. Tim gives Millie the rest of their bottled water while he drinks from the pond, the same that the dogs drink out of. Uh-oh. At first, Tim doesn't like opening up about himself, even though they have been dating for years, but then he opens up. First, it's why he has a lighter, and Millie admits first that she has started smoking again, and then he owns up to it. They promise to quit again later. Tim opens up again about how he knew about the rats, and buckle up, kiddies, cause this one's rough. One day he came home from school and his dad said his room smelled terrible and to clean it. So he did. The next day, same thing. The room smelled terrible, so he cleaned it. Tim didn't notice the smell, but his dad kept saying it smelled like death. Eventually, his dad had the idea to check out the ceiling lamp and found a dead rat in there. He huddled near the lamp for warmth, fell asleep, and just cooked. But Tim didn't notice the smell because he was sleeping in it. The smell of death. But it was more than that. There was a taste to it. But what really fucked Tim's life up was the second time he smelled it. It came from his parents' room. We get a scene to him opening the door and seeing his mom grinning at him, oblivious to the smell of death coming from Tim's dad, just a rotting corpse right next to her. He died in the night. They don't really explain it or anything, but the mom just went into shock and just stayed there. That is the inspiration for his nightmares that we have been seeing so far in the movie, and all of those nightmares are quite simply
deliciously evil looking.
They decide to sleep and hope that when the rain will stop and they can get out of there. We get treated to another spooky dream, and they wake up together.
He said it! He said it!
Their legs are slightly fused together. Tim figures it's some kind of sap or something, but it's sticky enough to actually hurt when they pull apart. So they bite down and give it a good rip, leaving matching scars on their legs. The rain stopped and they are able to climb out and find their way back home. Millie asks Tim for a shoulder rub, and at first Tim hesitates to do it, but then he gives her a rub that the people in society would be jealous of. Tim is entranced by touching and molding the skin of his gal, deaf to her cries of pain until she leaps from him. He wakes out of the trance, not really knowing what just happened. Millie is kinda sick of his weird ass and decides to go into town while he stays and takes a shower. Sorry to say, folks, we ain't getting a sexy shower scene with Dave Franco today. We get a freaky shower scene with Dave Franco. As Millie takes turns in her car, Tim can't help but hurl himself into the glass doors and tile of the shower, matching the directions that she is taking. As she drives further, he presses his face into the tile till his skin rips and the tile cracks. Ouch. Tim snaps out of it and goes to the doctor, who is kind of writing this off as anxiety messing with him, but prescribes some muscle relaxers to calm down his body. He also tells him about the local couple that went missing and used to live in the house he is currently staying at.
Excuse me? Baking powder?
He looks up a few details about the missing couple before dinner that night. The neighbor comes over and welcomes them to the neighborhood, and at first things are going well. There is some convo about the church and the hole. The neighbor, Jamie, talks about the church that used to be there that got swallowed up into the hole, and the members died off. Ha ha, JK, their numbers just dwindled. I wonder what that means. Millie is being a little too flirty with Jamie, and Tim fires a few passive-aggressive jabs at her. She fires back. You know, the classic public couple fight. Tim slightly reminds Jamie that Millie is his gal. Jamie goes home for the night and Tim calls her out for flirting with him. She denies it, but Tim falls into a trance and makes out with Millie. Their kisses are smooth and very smoochy until they get stuck together. Tim rips them apart and Millie thinks he bit her, and the night ends kinda shitty.
But wait! There's more!
Millie gets woken up in the middle of the night hearing some strange sounds and turns to see the horrors Tim has been up to. Tim snaps out of his trance and they pull her hair out of his mouth. The next morning, Millie suggests to Tim to just stay and not go to the rehearsal that her brother invited him to, participate in. Even though our guy looks like shit, he is determined to go. He gets dropped off at the train station and Millie goes back to work at the school. And you would think, alright, Tim is finally getting some things done with his life, moving on up. Nah, this is a horror movie. He feels the pull towards Millie and ends up at her school. She is venting to her friend about their relationship and that they have been dating for 10 years and it hasn't really gone anywhere. The friend says they should just break up.
You bitch!
Millie says no and harkens back to their first date. She brought up her favorite Spice Girls song, and on their second date, he gifts her an album of that song. She knows he is capable of going out of his way and doing something overly sweet. He just hasn't done it in a very long time. She notices him in the bushes and rushes out to pull him inside the bathroom stall. He can't keep himself from that snatch, and she needs the D like a Fremen needs water, so they bang in the bathroom stall. A kid sees their shoes in the stall and goes to grab a grown-up. Tim can't seem to get out of Millie, and she says sorry and gives it a firm rip. And for some reason, Tim's face goes red and his face is frozen. What's wrong, buddy?
My penis exploded.
Okay, that's a tough one. I'll give you that.
In all seriousness, a cooter has way more nerves than a schlong. That should have hurt her way more than Tim. Also, while I was watching this scene, I couldn't stop saying, lower your damn voices. You are banging in a school bathroom. But anyways, the kid comes back with an adult, but for you, it's just Jamie. Tim is on the toilet to hide his legs. Millie comes out of the stall and Jamie reminds her that this is a boy-kid's bathroom, but notices that she's bleeding down her leg and chops it up to lady problems. He gets nervous and says just be more careful next time. He walks out of there and at the same time, Tim's feet touch the ground. Millie and Tim are back at home and she is furious at him. What he did could have cost her her job. And right before she goes over to Jamie's house to apologize and really try to save her job, she mentions to Tim, sometimes I feel like your mother, and that she's living with a corpse. And that's why you never open up to women. Holy fuck, that was a devastator level of a dig. Like, how the fuck do you come back from that? So Millie is apologizing to Jamie and he is still writing it off as lady problems. So it seems like we are in the clear, but Millie wants to talk more about her problems, and Jamie opens up about his relationship. She sees a picture of Jamie and his husband, and they both kinda look like him. That's one reason the photo draws your attention. The other is that Jamie is gay. Because the impression we got from him before was that he's being a little too close with Millie, and Tim was eyeing that in an obvious way, but I guess he is just really friendly. Or is he? He then goes on about the Plato story about Zeus creating man, and how we were originally created with 2 heads, 4 arms, and 4 legs. But then Zeus split us in half, and then we wander the world in constant search for our other half. The whole time we don't see Jamie's other half, so we are still in the dark about what happened to him. She asks him if he's alone, and then he goes on about his relationship, and at some point, they split. And it felt liberating. He felt free. But with his freedom, he didn't do anything. And so he started to miss his other half. He realized that he wasn't really himself without his other half. Millie sees Tim in the bushes and makes an excuse to bail. They slightly hold hands on their way back, a little gesture to us, the audience, that things might be okay for our couple. That night, Tim is doing more investigating into the couple and is able to narrow down their last location, very close to the house. He notices a bell in the background, and it's the same bells we have seen around the hole. The internet cuts out and Millie is mimicking Tim's movements and almost bursts through the door separating them. Tim then slaps some sense into that bitch and she cries out, "What are you doing?" And he's all, "Me? What are you doing?" I have to say, I was not expecting humor when going into this film because I intentionally went in pretty blind. But yeah, there's a fair amount of humor in this flick, and I think that it all hits pretty hard, especially across Millie's bitch face. So Tim starts brainstorming about what is happening to them. He got sick, and after they raw dogged it, he got her sick. And the reason why they are being extra weird at night is because the mind is tired, so their bodies start taking over. Millie calls BS on the whole thing and says she doesn't want him to be here when her parents come to visit. And she even tops it off with them sleeping in separate beds. Tim says, "I love you," and she gives him a very enthusiastic.
Okay.
As they sleep, their bodies take over and they are flung into the hallway. They both wake up and they are desperate for their bodies to not touch. But it's not enough and their hands touch and they begin to fuse together. Tim notices the muscle relaxers nearby and think they can help. And they are so desperate to barely OD on the pills that when they get them, it's pretty funny. We're talking swallow and chew and snort and rubbing them on their teeth. It's a pretty funny movie, people. But they tire themselves out and sleep. Tim wakes up to the sound of tape stretching and sees that he is taped to a chair with Millie in his lap. She says she was hoping that he would be asleep by the time she started cutting.
Excuse me? Baking powder?
The muscle relaxers did help, but Tim and Millie's arms are still fused together with a thin piece of skin, keeping them together. Tim is freaking out, but she reminds him that the pills will wear off and things will only get worse, so she grabs an electric saw and cuts them apart. They recharge their batteries with some food while sitting on opposite sides of the kitchen. They only got 2 pills left and Millie wants to go to the hospital, but Tim wants to go back to the hole to figure this shit out. Millie demands that they go to the hospital for their wounds, but she thinks she left her car keys at the neighbor's house and goes to grab them. Tim wastes no time and books it over to the hole. Millie snoops around Jamie's place looking for her keys and she sees no Jamie. A video starts playing of his wedding and the church he had it at, the one that sunk into the hole.
Dun, 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 dun.
While she is seeing the combining ceremony of people willingly joining together at the church, Tim looks for clues in the hole and finds the couple from the intro, and boy, do they have a face only a mother could love. We see the possible outcome of the combining not working, and of course it's a freakish monster with a knife in their neck. Whether that was self-inflicted or not, who's to say? But Tim freaks out, takes the knife and cuts off a few of their fingers and runs away. Can't even get a mercy kill in this bitch, huh? Jamie surprises Millie with the teachings of their church and uses his wedding ring with a little hidden blade and cuts open her wrist to allow the transfer to be easier. She hits him and we see his head split in 2 briefly and he speaks with 2 voices at the same time. Tim and Millie arrive at home at the same time. They try to space themselves apart, but their bodies are pulling them towards each other. Tim says he has a solution to their problem. He walks towards her and bends his knee and mimics the hand box ring gesture she did for him at the beginning of the movie. He confesses that his life was shit before he met her and pulls out a knife for himself. Millie stops him, saying that there is another way. The camera pans down and we see blood dripping from her arm from Jamie's cut. She begins to fade away and tells Tim that he has to be free, and she drifts off. Millie wakes up in the house, shocked that she is still alive. She asks Tim what did he do, and he responds, "The only thing I could to stop the bleeding," and we see that their arms are fused together again. Millie claims that she was trying to let him go, but Tim follows up with, "Did you really want to let me go?" And she responds with a pretty cute, "No." He puts on her favorite Spice Girls album and they take off their clothes and bandages and start fooling around. And I gotta say, they're looking pretty good. Good job, boys and girls. While the molding is happening, I am pretty sure we hear Hereditary music playing. Someone please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. We jump to the dining room table being ready for dinner and Millie's parents arriving to their front door. The door opens and we see this odd looking Tim-Millie combo person and the movie cuts to credits. So, do you think they have a penis and vagina at the same time?
What is wrong with you?
I'm serious. The movie does not describe how this kind of life would be. Who is the main or the Matrix for all y'all who watched The Substance? Great movie, by the way. But whose conscience is at the forefront for the day-to-day living? Are they blended together? Do they swap depending on the mood? Do they essentially have the body of a true hermaphrodite and could technically impregnate themselves? So many questions. And despite all of my questions, this is a great movie. This is so far probably one of my top 5, maybe even top 3 of the year so far. It's a damn shame that this movie isn't making more money at the box office. Solid performances, solid scares, solid drama, solid romance, solid humor. I'm really not sure what critique I could give towards this movie other than the Hereditary music at the end and the unsure answer of what kind of hell or paradise this couple is living for the rest of their lives. Jamie has the easier setup because he's gay, so almost none of these possible body sharing questions would apply. Sure, there are some questions you could still ask that don't have answers, but you could say that about damn near every movie that doesn't spell out everything for you. And chances are, whatever answer they could give you, probably wouldn't be good enough. Like, remember how in Terminator Dark Fate, how it asked the question of, what would a Terminator do after completing its mission in the present? And the answer turned out to be, have a non-sexual relationship with a single mom, be hilarious, sell bathroom curtains, and give missions to Sarah Connor on future Terminators that are part of a company that he has no connection to.
What the?
Are you sure you read that right?
Yeah, I'm sure that really happened in that movie. If you are a serious horror connoisseur, you will definitely get vibes of Society and The Thing in this flick. The Thing mostly gets an homage with the dogs at the beginning, and Society because there are a group behind the molding of flesh, but I don't think Together is a ripoff in the slightest. It's definitely different enough for it to stand on its own feet and would be worth your money in theaters. Hell, I'd go see it a second time. What do you all think? Did you see it? Have you subscribed to the channel? Want to get rickrolled in a way that's relevant to this movie's title?
Together forever and never to part. Together forever we two.
Get to subbing and be spooky about it.